Hey guys, Grant Wilhelm from Magnatone Amps. I have a very special guest today, gearing up for his 2025 World Tour with Guns N' Roses, the one and only Slash. Slash, how you doing today?
I'm good.
So most of the interviews that you do are based upon guitars, but since we're going to talk about amps today, what was your first amp?
My first amp was a little Fender, I think it was a Princeton. That was my first amp. And then the next one I got after that, I graduated to a Sun Beta Lead solid state amp,
Nice.
which sounded great for like 6 months.
Can you talk a little bit about your journey that led you to Magnatone?
Really, when it came down to it, I sort of gradually made my way to Marshalls, right? Did a lot of trial and error with the different amps, and then I pretty much made my home with Marshall for a lot of years. And then over time, I started to get, I don't know what's the best word for it, a little disillusioned with the whole sort of, maybe the consistency of my sound with the Marshall or whatever it was, but there was things that I wanted to achieve that I wasn't really getting out of those amps. And then I played a Magnatone one time, just by chance, really. I had one, I think Richard Fortas gave it to me. I mean, I went to go do this blues record a couple of years ago. I pulled out all these, because I wasn't looking for a wall of sound for the blues record. I wanted something that was more like a combo 50 watt, or less type of deal. So I pulled out all these old combos that I had, and I saw the Magnatone, and I was familiar with them because Billy Gibbons was using them. So I pulled that in there, and I ended up using it for the whole pre-production process. Out of everything that I had, I kept going back to that amp. And then when we went into the studio, I did the whole record with that amp. And then I started using them live, and it just blossomed very organically into something. This is what I want to use. Wait till you hear the next Conspirators record.
I can't wait.
Because that's all the 100-watt, the big Magnatone that I developed with you guys. And it sounds killer.
Speaking of the SL100, is that what you're taking on tour with Guns N' Roses?
That's what's going out with Guns N' Roses, which is a first. A couple of years ago, I sort of took my 50-watt Magnatone combos and replaced the Marshalls on that tour, that last Guns tour, for the entire tour. And it worked great. And so we've since developed the SL100. So I'm really excited that we've got, it sounds amazing in that context.
So you said that you play the 100 watt and the 50 watts. Can you sonically hear a difference between them?
The 100 watts are just beefier and heavier. They exude a lot more power, and you can just sense it automatically. But that's the most dramatic thing. The tone is pretty consistent as far as the clarity and the sort of bite to it and all that. That's sort of consistent across the board. But the SL100s definitely bring a beefier, more powerful presence.
Tell us the idea of where the Purple Python cosmetic came from. Is that?
Well, we had this conversation briefly just before NAMM when we were putting these guys out. And I thought, well, purple would be cool. We looked at a bunch of different color swatches and whatnot, and I thought purple and black would be, and it was just, I threw it out there, and they very quickly went and put it together, and next thing you know, they were at NAMM, and that was that. But so now, I guess people have called in and really like the Purple Python on the Magnatone M80s, and they requested it on the SL100, so there you go.
We're rolling them out now.
Yeah.
Do you feel that having them hand-built in the U.S. makes them feel a little bit more special to you?
I mean, being made in America and made in St. Louis is fucking rock and roll. It's great.
How do you feel that the Baby M80 fits into your line?
Well, okay, so I have one of these at my studio, and whenever I go in there and play, that's just my automatic go-to, and it's just a kick-ass little amp. You would never believe it was only 12 watts. I always forget and think it's louder, but it's a great sounding, very small, very sort of home friendly amp, but you can crank it and make it not so home friendly.
How do you think your sound has evolved over the years?
For me personally, it's always evolving. It might not matter to anybody who's listening to it. I don't think anybody's paying that much attention to the nuances of things that happen. But I think as a player, you're constantly sort of striving for something, even it could be the smallest detail or a big broad stroke. There's always something that you're trying to achieve, and it seems to be never ending. I think really what it is me trying to achieve the sound that I think is perfect for what it is that I do. So it's a total personal journey. It has nothing to do with anybody else or anything else. It's just sort of, I think initially when you asked me what my first amp was, I had that Fender Princeton, I had a Les Paul copy, and I had one of those little mustard yellow MXR Distortion Pluses. It wasn't even Distortion Plus then. I think it was just a Distortion. Anyway, and that was, putting that together. I probably been playing a year or something, and then I put those three things together, and I was like, eureka! That was where I was headed. So I sort of had an idea of where I wanted to go, and that's just been a constant sort of search ever since then.
Do you think Magnatone has kind of helped you achieve?
Oh yeah, that was really a big revelation for me. Recently when I first got involved with Magnatone, because as important to me as sound is, have a very basic approach to equipment. I don't like tinkering. I don't like spending hours and hours researching stuff, and I just don't enjoy messing around with it. So I get an amp and I plug it in and I make some sort of basic adjustments on the tone controls, and get it sort of where I want it. And there's not really that much else to go on one amp. You can turn the bass up a little bit, turn the treble. I mean, there's not a lot you can do. And so I've been able to get what I wanted with that basic approach. But over time, I started to get less and less of what I was expecting out of it from the gear that I was using. And I was just sort of living with it at the time, sort of searching around for different little things, going through a lot of heads, trying to find better ones than the one I had, and so on. But then when I more or less stumbled on the Magnatone, it was like, oh fuck. It was because you start to lose sight of what it is you're looking for when you've only got a certain amount of things to work with. And I really stopped looking at a lot of the new amp manufacturers. I'm aware of them, but they all sort of still sound the same to me. So the Magnatone thing was like, oh wow, you can make an amp that sounds really good. It doesn't sound like everything else.
We feel like more of a classic vibe.
Yeah, it just, whatever it is, I mean, I haven't even put a label on it. It was just, to my ear, it was like, oh, this sounds really good. This is working for me,
I feel that there's, I think we all do, we kind of see the trend of people coming back to the amplifiers and starting to get away from the floor modulars already.
I can say that if you just want a really honest, great sounding amp that's got a lot of great sonic features, very naturally, Magnatone is a killer amp. That's really the long and short of it. People who are doing all the digital stuff and all the whatever it is, modular sort of, I mean, that's something I could never comprehend in the first place, so I would get away from that as soon as possible. I understand the convenience of it, but it just doesn't sound organic at all to me. So yeah, this is definitely the alternative to that for sure.
Right on.
A good alternative. Yeah.
I agree. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, and we really appreciate it. And if you have any questions about your amps or any other Magnatone amps, just reach out to magnatoneusa.com and we'll take care of it. Thanks, Slash. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks so much.